Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are so busy with crops. And we covered undirected crops, and we covered directed crops. And the whole thing about crops is you can have basically doing a DFS or a BFS. Yes, so you have to know how to do a depth first search, how to do a BFS, and then the applications on top of that for shading, for sort, and all those things. It's a question on how do I call depth first search? What is the extra information I keep while I'm doing my depth first search for finding site? Yes. It's not obvious the first time you look at it. And I was looking for a clause, if you remember correctly. Let's look at again. Basically, you call a piece of code, and then you make sure that you call the piece of code with the same node, but then you test in a very strange way. You test if two things are not equal, then it's a cycle, which doesn't make sense. And I can never find the code when I'm in class. I found it last night again, whatever. Have a look at the cycle code, make sure that you know why that is. Basically, you call the cycle with two elements, two nodes, then you do a depth first search through your tree. You go through the whole adjacency list, and the intuitive thing is to check whether the node W that I'm getting is actually equal to B, but they don't do that. They test to other things for not equal, then it's a cycle. So please go through that cycle code, make sure that you know why it works. It does work, it's not a mistake in the book, but if you look at it the first time, it doesn't make sense. Okay. So what we want to do today is we want to do a minimum spanning trees. However, before I get there, I know this is test week over the next month. I also know that I'm ahead of schedule by one lecture. So I need you to send an email to Miss Daly if you want to continue as you are, one lecture ahead, and then we have a free lecture at the end of the semester, or whether you want to choose to have a free lecture somewhere in your test. Yes. So between now and the 7th of April, I think. 7th of April is maths, so almost you write that. So if there is a particular subject where you think I'm simply going to die, email, you send an email to Ms. Daly and you tell her, I really, really, really want a free lecture. Yeah. Okay. And then with Ms. Daly, you'll count all the requests and nicely, democratically, where the most people chose a free lecture, you'll get a free lecture there. Otherwise, if nobody wants a free lecture in this test period, we'll keep it and we'll stop a bit earlier in the last week. Then we only have 2 lectures in the last week instead of 3. So it's up for grabs if you want. Okay. Also, I'm going to go a bit more slowly since it's the month of March. Okay, planning trees. For the moment, we are going to fall back to undirected graphs, because the code will work almost the same in directed, but it's just easier in the beginning to do the undirected version. So we now fall back to undirected graphs. Here is an example of an undirected graph. Remember that the breadth first search gives us the shortest path. Yes, because at every point we simply choose the shortest path to the next node, and we gave a hand waving, thumb sucking, whatever, yeah, pseudoscience argument that just really generally gives me the shortest path. But there are many other applications where we want to do the following. The thing we want to do is we want to put a certain value on each edge. For example, that hole, you failed your 7 years and now you're working for pet storage argument. Yeah, that's the story. And you are going to minimize your petrol costs by driving the shortest route. Now, if I had simply had a graph and I did a breadth first search, what I'm getting is not really the shortest path, it's just the least number of hops. You understand that? Because we didn't have weights on the edges. We just said, well, I have to drive here, here, and here, so that's the shortest path. But I actually counted the number of towns that, the smallest number of towns that are left. Is not really, in a real sense, the shortest distance in terms of kilometers. So what we now do is we build edge-weighted graphs, where I actually put the kilometers on each of the edges. Yes? And then we say, well, how can I visit all the nodes exactly once and get a minimum value over all the edges? Okay, so for example, when I'm at 7, I must think, will I go to 5 immediately, or will I go to 4 and then to 5? Okay. Should I repeat that? There was a humorous interruption. Yeah, so if I have kilometers on the edges, when I'm at 7, do I want to go to 5, or do I want to go to 4 and then to 5? Well, in the picture it seems obvious, but the length of an edge does not really represent the distance, right? It's like the London Tube. Yeah, you get those diagrams, but they don't represent distances, really. Ach nee, oopbliksem. So, almal julle selfone op. Okay, right. This is just the relationship. Hy's gewoon weg, of? Kan jy het glo? Ek het nuwe batterye in. Okay, whatever. This graph drawn like this is an abstract representation. So the fact that an edge is short there doesn't mean that the weight is less than the weight on this one. And we want to optimize. How many of you are doing ON or applies? Yeah, almost all of you. But not the BCom people, huh? times. Okay, you might do O and O. Never mind. Optimization is a huge thing. Yes, I have a problem. I want to find the optimum solution. So I want to invest in the stock market. I want the maximum return. I want to drive around to lots of towns. I want the minimum kilometers. That's an optimization problem. So in this graph, we will make a couple of assumptions, which I have to go through, which is sort of counterintuitive if you look at the picture. Okay, not all of them, but some of them. So first we assume the graph is connected, otherwise it's just messy. Yes, if the graph is not connected, then you have to do two minimizations separately. So just for convenience sake, the graph is connected. Note, 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 note. The edge weights are not necessarily the distances. It can be money, as in the stock market application. Yes. It can represent, in principle, it depends on the application what that number represents, right? So we can have edge weights that are 0 or negative. Again, the stock market. I'm trying to represent the growth in a certain portfolio, but that can become negative. Yes, it makes sense. Debit, credit. For the moment, we will assume that all the edge weights are different. However, we make that assumption simply to make the proofs easier to follow. The code, the algorithm itself, actually will work even with duplicate edge weights. Okay? So when you're doing your internship over the June holidays, which I assume you're all organizing at the moment, then, and you need to find a minimum spanning tree, then you may use the algorithms from the book side straight as is, even if you have duplicate ones. Yes, so that's our parent chart. No, sorry, ignore. In the stock market, that's parallel edges, yes, because one parent may. No, that's not true. Okay, second example, ignore, are you all awake now? So the stock market, for example, there might be two stocks that show the same growth, yes. Duplicate edge weights. And the usual parallel edges and self loops and so on. Okay, but the important one just for the proofs are the edge weights are all different. The edge weights may be 0 or negative. Right. The algorithms that we're going to use fall into a class of algorithms called the greedy algorithm. Now, we started talking about certain terminology that you use throughout the rest of your computer science career. Remember, we started off in the beginning with the time-space trade-off. And you now know what that is. I can do it quicker if I use more memory. If I need to optimize my memory, my algorithm might take longer. Yeah, time-space trade-off. Then we did something in sorting. In the sorting algorithms, we used to divide and conquer. Can you remember that? Merge sort and quick sort. What does that mean? You have to explain it to your PA roommate. It means you take a big problem, you break it up into smaller parts, and solve each of the smaller parts individually. That is divide and conquer. It's like weeding the garden. We have chores. Cleaning your room. Yes? You don't consider this whole thing of cleaning my room. You break it up into smaller parts. You say, okay, let's just organize the bookshelf. Okay, let's just empty the bin. Okay, and then all in all, when you combine them all together, you clean your room. Okay, otherwise you got tired halfway through. It started learning computer science because that's much nicer. Oh, it is. Okay. And the algorithm that we're going to look at here is called a greedy algorithm. What does it mean for an algorithm to be greedy? It means that my algorithm steps through my data structure and it finds a local optimum at every point that it gets to, and then proceed with that local optimum, and hopefully, please, yes, most of the time, it might actually also be a global optimum. Okay. So that's a greedy algorithm. At any point in my algorithm, I'm going to assume that the local information, the optimum in the local environment will give me, in the end, if I combine all these little local optimums, they will give me a global optimum. Why is that called a greedy algorithm? Why is that the issue in any case? I think I drew this on the board before. Yeah. This is a function. I want to find the maximum of the function. Yes. So I tootle along on the x-axis and I find a maximum there. How do I know it's a maximum? Well, the value to the left is smaller and the value to the right is smaller, so clearly I am a maximum. Yes? But this is a local maximum. So to make sure that this is not a local maximum, but actually a global maximum, I would have to compare this answer to all the possible other values in the function. Yeah. So finding a local optimum does not necessarily mean I will get a global optimum. Does that make sense? Right? So greedy algorithms say, look, I don't want to look at every other single point in my algorithm, in my data structure. I'm a local minimum here, and hopefully I can combine the local minimums in such a way that that gives me the global minimum. Right. Why would a minimum spanning tree be considered useful in an optimization algorithm? Because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to find a minimum spanning tree, and we presume that finding the minimum spanning tree would give us, in most applications, the answer that we're looking for. Why would that be? Well, in a minimum spanning tree, I'm looking at a graph. I visit all the nodes in the graph. So I have all the essential information about the application. And then I want to know, if I visit all the nodes, which of the edges must I use to actually get edges with the least, with the smallest weight every time I make a choice on which edge to use. And that then, since I'm at every possible choice, I'm taking the smallest value, I assume that that will globally go over the whole thing and gives me the smallest value of connecting all the nodes together. And then I put my application on top of that. For example, visiting all my pet store shops. Yes. And I say, well, how can I now drive? How can I find the route based on the minimum spanning? So this is my basic algorithm. It's like depth first search. It's the basic thing that I have. It gives me the edges, the collection of edges with the smallest possible component. And then we continue from there onwards. Okay. Underlying principle. What we are going to do in order to find a minimum spanning tree is I am going to divide the graph into two sets of nodes. And then I want to find the edge with minimum weight that connects those two sets. Okay. However, to do that, we need to look at the property of a tree. Remember, you cause trees, right? You did it from the first year onwards. So think about this for a second. If I add an edge that connects two vertices in a tree, so you give me a tree. There's your binary search tree. Yes? Nodes in your tree. And then you draw an edge between them. Existing nodes. Get your head around this. I draw a tree with an existing number of nodes. I cannot add more nodes. If you do that on a set of nodes and you draw a tree between those nodes in any which way you want, if you add a single other edge, you'll cause a cycle. Think of it. Think of how you. I cannot add more nodes. Yes, because if I could add more nodes, I can just add a node and draw an edge, and clearly that doesn't cause a cycle. But if my number of nodes are fixed, yes, I cannot add another node. I simply want to add another edge. The only way to do that would be to connect two existing nodes that are already in a tree structure. And that, yeah, does that make sense to you? I don't think it's that obvious, but okay. Then another thing, if you give me a tree, this is now illegal, yes, there is a legal tree. If you give me a tree with existing nodes and existing edges, and then I take away any of the edges, what does it do? It breaks the tree into two parts. Suddenly, this poor little guy is not connected. So that property, get your head around it. If you give me a tree and I add an edge, it necessarily causes a cycle. If you give me a tree and I remove an edge, it breaks the tree in two parts. Okay? So you all sort of think it's correct. Okay, well, good for you. Okay, a cut of a graph is a partition of its vertices into two non-empty disjoint sets. So what is a cut? It's I delete an edge. Yeah, because I have a graph. It's not non-empty disjoint sets. For example, this little picture here, this line here we have, actually does break up that graph into two parts. The part on the right-hand side and the part on the left-hand side. Okay. And then a crossing edge of a cut is an edge that connects a vertex in one set with a vertex in the other. Have a look at that picture again. I had my minimum spanning tree, right? Well, I had a spanning tree. And then I looked at this gray node here and I said, well, that is a cut. Okay, because it breaks up the graph into two sets of vertices. But it may happen that your algorithm is sitting here and it is trying to find a cutting edge. Yes, and it doesn't know which one of these, because over here I have, oh no, even more. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, from that one onwards, 4 edges. Yeah, that might be a crossing edge. Yeah, because if I look at the left set of nodes and the right set of nodes, all those connect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, right. 5 edges actually. Any one of those 5 edges is a crossing edge because it connects a vertex in the right, on the right hand side to a vertex on the left hand side. Okay, so that's a crossing edge. So proposition J you have to know for the test. The whole idea of finding a minimum spanning tree will be the following. I advance through my nodes. I start with one node in the one partition and all the other nodes in the other partition. And then I look at the adjacency list of this node, a single node, and I say take the one with the minimum weight. Yes, and put that into my spanning tree. So now I have 2 nodes in my spanning tree and all the other n-2 nodes not in my spanning tree. Yes, and the link over here is the minimum. And my greedy algorithm simply says, if you continue in this fashion, you will build not only a spanning tree, but we guarantee that that spanning tree has a minimum weight. So the proposition J proves the cut property, and it looks so obvious. It's a bit like proving 1 is a positive number, -1 is a negative number. It's like, duh, of course it is, it's not. You have to overbrain to prove it in the next week. Next year, yeah, you have to have a think of the group the structure that you're working in. Are you working in a group or a field or a ring or whatever, and so on. But okay. So the cut property says, given any cut in an edge-weighted graph, the crossing edge of minimum weight is in the minimum spanning tree of the graph. Yeah. And now I need you to be able to prove this. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, suppose I have a graph and I have a minimum spanning tree, which I name T, and over here you have a picture, all the black edges form the minimum spanning tree, and then the argument centers around the edges in the cut. You can see that the red edges form a cut of this graph. I throw all these edges, the gray edges into the left partition, the white edges into the right partition, so these edges form a cut. So I want to have a minimum spanning tree, and we prove by contradiction. Suppose that the minimum spanning tree does not contain the edge E, okay, where E is the crossing edge of minimum weight, okay? So I have my graph, I have my minimum spanning tree, I'm looking at the cut and I'm saying in this cut of all these 5 links, E has the minimum weight. Right? But I do it by contradiction. E is the crossing edge of minimum weight. So I assume E is not in the minimum spanning, even though it has contradiction. Now, if I consider the graph formed by adding E to T, well, that must be illegal, because adding E, I already have a tree. Now, adding E would cause a cycle, okay? So, therefore, that cycle must contain at least one other crossing edge, say F. Yeah. See, there's my cycle. I had a spanning tree I have all my crossing edges. I'm saying suppose E has the minimum weight, but it's not in the minimum spanning tree. So one of these 4 other edges must be in the minimum spanning tree, although it doesn't have the minimum weight. So let's suppose that's F. And now I add E. But that would cause a cycle. And F has a higher weight than E. Okay. So therefore, you can make it a tree by deleting an edge. And the edge I have to delete is clearly F and not E because F has a higher weight. So to remove the cycle, I have to delete the edge. And the edge I want to delete to assure that minimum weight is F and not E. Okay, then I get to my contradiction because then E is the minimum spanning tree. Yeah. Right. So what we are going to do now, what was it? We're going to look at the greedy algorithm, but before we get there, in order to have a nice description of the greedy algorithm, we're just going to look at all the methods in my API. The reason why I look at that, clearly I want to implement edges, and it must be possible to compare 2 edges because I want to compare the weights. I must be able to find the weight of an edge. But there's this weird thing here, either and other. Okay. Any edge represents 2 nodes. Yeah? I'm going from V to W, directionlessness, so V and W are connected. So what the either and the other does is either says, I don't want to constrain my algorithm to pick a particular node between V and W. My algorithm must work whether I pick V or W. So either will give me back one of the nodes. I don't know which one. There's no rule which says which one I pick. It will give me one of the nodes, and then other will give me the other. So if I have an edge VW, my either operation could return the other of V is W. If I have an edge VW, because I'm an undirected draw, if either returns W, then other returns V. So that's just a bit of housekeeping in the algorithm itself. Nothing strange. I want to be able to add edges. I want to find all the edges adjacent to V, and so on. We use the same data structure as before. The adjacency list, but note the small change. What I do is I add a weight. Okay, and for convenience sake, we keep the weights between 0 and 1. Right. So what we have, and now you have to be very careful how these bags are stored. You'll see a little bit later on that this be, if I am at node 0, then if 0 is connected to 6, then you actually store both 6 and 0. And so just live with it for a moment. It looks unnecessary, but it's a small int that you store, so it doesn't take a lot of memory. And it becomes convenient later. So it looks a bit strange. I am at 0. What do? I say the edge between 6 and 0 has a weight of 0.58, the edge has a weight of 0.26 and so on. So it looks a bit silly to store that 0 again, but it makes the rest of the algorithm a bit easier later on. Okay? Nothing new there. So we have the Java code. Just for interest's sake, look at the implementation of other. So I'm sending you a vertex. If the B return W, is W return B. As easy as that. We compare the weights of edges, straight Java, nothing strange. And the implementation of the edge-weighted graph. We want to add edges. Very familiar, right? Then we at last, thank heavens, come to the algorithm to construct a minimum spanning tree. Okay? You have to keep your wits about it. The book claims that this is a very easy algorithm. Contrary to that, I find that second years typically struggle with this algorithm. So just keep your wits about you. I don't know why, because this is just like a straight example of what you've seen before, but okay. The algorithm that we're going to use is called Prim's algorithm. Okay? Prim's algorithm has got two versions, the lazy version and the easy version. Here. And there is also another algorithm called Kruskal's algorithm, which is a variation of Prim's algorithm. We're only going to do the two versions of Prim's algorithm. Okay? You don't have to learn Kruskal for the test. In fact, Kruskal is the more common one, but if you understand Prim, you're good to go, you understand the idea. Okay, so Prim's algorithm is a greedy algorithm. So what will it do? It starts off with one node. It starts off with the cut of the graph. It puts one node into the minimum spanning tree, my starting node. Yeah. And then it makes a cut. None of the other nodes is in the spanning tree. I start with the start node, put it in the spanning tree. And I look at the crossing edges. Why is it a crossing edge? Because it will connect me to the other partition of the graph. And I look at the minimum weight. And then I put that edge in my spanning tree. And accordingly, if I have a node B and a node W, and I put the edge between them in the spanning tree, then W is in the spanning tree as well. Right? So I add the edge. By adding the edge, I also add that extra node. Yes, because edge is just two nodes. Okay. And what we are going to do is we're going to keep track of all the vertices on a tree, and this is because we eventually want to get to all of them. But it's the same idea as search. So as we visit the nodes, we mark them. You already saw that in DFS. Then the edges in the tree, I use the cube. Okay, or you can use a vertex indexed array H2. I'm going to use the Q. You're welcome to use that as well. Crossing edges are hard. So not only do we want to build up that spanning tree, so we have to store the vertices. So if a vertex is marked, it's in the tree. Yes, we mark it by putting it, but putting it in the tree is the same as marking it. Right? And then we add the edges into the tree by putting them on a cube. But we have to make sure for any cut, what is a cut? A collection of crossing edges. We need to select the edge with the minimum weight. So we store those on a priority queue. And the nice thing about the priority queue is I always have my minimum top. Right? So if I have a priority queue, remember long ago, what was it, chapter 2, chapter 1, I think. The priority queue allows me to is in such a way that my minimum value is always the top one. Well, choose whether you want the minimum max, but the minimum value in this case is always the minimum. Okay. So the insertions take place in such a way that the minimum value is at the top. Okay. Why would I want that? Because I'm going to insert into the priority queue. Whenever I want to add an edge to the priority queue, I add it in such a way that the minimum weight edge is at the top. So it's very easy to get to that one. Okay. Right. So this is the example. And for the test, For the test, what you have to know is, of course, the propositions, but also, if I give you an undirected graph with the edge weights and the adjacency list, you must construct format in which the nodes are added to the minimum spanning tree. Of course, I wouldn't ask you to just draw the minimum spanning tree. I want the order. So you must be able to trace this by hand. So what you have to do is, the only tricky thing here really is updating the priority queue correctly. Okay, so let's start. Suppose my start node is 0. Well, what are the edges connected to my start node? The edges connected to the start node is 0, 7. Just believe the fundamental. Okay, with a weight of 0.16, then 0.2 is also, there are 4 edges connected to 0, right? These 4 and these are their weights. And since I'm implementing this with the minimum, with the priority queue, the minimum value is the one at the top of the priority. And I'm very happy because clearly 0 is in my minimum spanning tree. I want to add that edge. So 7 zips into my minimum spanning tree. Yes. So I have 2 nodes and the 1 edge there. Okay, so what do? I do the same. 7 is connected to 0, but since 0 is already in the minimum spanning tree, let me rephrase. Let me take 2 steps back. If I look at a given node, remember I'm looking at the cut of the graph. So I don't reconsider nodes that are not in the other partition. My minimum spanning tree is the 1 partition. So 0 and 7 are 1. So they are not nodes that I can add to my minimum spanning tree. And my cut does that. Yes. And therefore the only node. So I am at 7. What are the edges going to the other partition of the graph? Well, 7 goes to 4, to 5, to 1, to 2. Right? And I'm not looking at this one because I'm only looking at nodes that are not marked yet. Remember that the marking keeps my partition. Okay, right. The one with the smallest, the stars indicate all the edges that I add. So I add all the edges just like I did over here. And just for convenience sake, we show them in the example with the star. And then the one with minimum weight is 1/7. So I add that to my minimum spanning tree. Right, so now I consider 1 and I'm doing the same thing. 1 is connected to 3, to 5, and to 2. 3, 5, and 2. Oh, wait a minute. So now I'm at 1, but the edge with the minimum weight on my priority queue is 0, 2. So I am actually at a node, but I'm choosing an edge that is not adjacent to this node, because I choose my edges from my priority. Okay. So here you get the first funny thing. I am at 1, I add the edges to my priority queue, but I'm not going to them among the edges I just added. I choose my minimum from the whole priority. Okay, so therefore I choose 0, 2. Okay, and there we go. Okay, 0, 2 was chosen. Now I look at all the edges adjacent to 2. That would be 3 and 6. And now look at this description here. There are some edges that appear on my priority queue, but they are grayed out in the example in the book. And the text calls it ineligible edges. So an edge becomes ineligible when it would cause a cycle. So you can see 2 and 7 are ineligible, and 2, 1 is also ineligible. Okay, onwettig. 2, 7 is ineligible, 2, 1 is ineligible because they would cause a cycle in my spanning tree. Okay? So in my priority queue, I mark them as not eligible. Yes.
Just on the graph before, like when you added 0, 2 on top, what happened to 1, 7?
It's still there. 1, 7 is the minimum. Thank you very much. I update the priority queue as I go by deleting the top element of the priority queue. That's why it's so nice to actually use a priority queue. So over here I had 0, 7 in my priority queue. Then I delete 0, 7 and I add 4 more edges. And then I put 1, 7, which is the minimum in my priority queue, in my spanning tree, and I delete 1, 7. Sorry, I neglected to say that.
So 0, 7 goes to the spanning tree and then 1, 7 goes to it.
Yes. So as we progress, the white nodes, in each step the white node is added to the spanning tree, and the dark black links go into the spanning tree. So over here, I simply add 0 in my spanning tree. Then I found that 0, 7 is the link to add, which puts 7 on the minimum spanning tree. Then I found that my top one was 1, 7 with minimum weight. So I add that edge and the 7, and that disappears from my priority queue. So the current state of the priority of the minimum spanning tree is that these 3 nodes are in the minimum spanning tree. So, okay. Is everybody happy? Any more questions about this? And off you go. So once you add an element to the spanning tree, you have to make sure that you test whether elements are ineligible or not. The only difference between the lazy version and the eager version is how we handle the priority queue. So I'll talk about that on next. Thank you very much. Good luck with the test.